Alright, so if I do a Winnie the Pooh's home run Pooh, then Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, yabba-dabba-dabba-dabba, something about rumbly tumblies, Winnie the Pooh. I like how I corrected the pitch for it there. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, yabba-dabba-doo-doo, da-da-doo. Winnie the Pooh, 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 Winnie the Pooh. Would be a more appropriate version of the Winnie the Pooh theme tune for this game. Time for Winnie the Pooh's Home Run Derby. This is a famously difficult browser flash game for 2-year-old children that is hard to beat even by 30-year-old men. And so it's time for me to find out just how bad it is. The story goes that the Winnie the Pooh characters have been possessed by demons or something like that. Or there's something not right with them. Christopher Robin, the final boss of this game, spoilers, is routinely considered to be a spawn of some most outrageous demon. He's everything from the day. But how hard can this game possibly be? I want to find out myself. Move Pooh with the mouse. Keep your eye on the ball, take aim and click to swing. Try to hit the ball with the middle of the bat to really make it fly. I've never played baseball, but I've played the same thing as base football in Britain called rounders. Which I'm sure that any other British person would be frothing at the mouth to hear me say that, but I don't care. They're the same. Cricket's the same as well. It's just less the same. Alright, fine. Choose a level. Let's choose Eeyore. Eeyore is the first level in the game for some reason. I guess Eeyore is just so... well, I was avoiding saying it, but depressed that he's just... Wait, how do I strike? How do I hit? Okay, I've got to hold down the button, I think. Well, off to a flying start already. Got that one, but I bet it didn't go far enough. No, it didn't. Eeyore is so depressed that he just can't be bothered to even try. Okay, this is going pear-shaped already. I can't lose to Eeyore. There, that was a good one. Yes, you got to hit the ball as close to that little green bit in the right side of the bat as possible, I think. Yeah! Eat that, Eeyore! Suck that, you postcode donkery merchant! Oh no! Foul ball. Another thing I saw from watching YouTube videos. This is the first time I played this. The first other thing I've learned from... Oh, come on, I've got one chance. Zero's a hit. Come on. Don't lose to Eeyore, you post-Pooh's code winnery merchant. Yeah! Yoy! We the mate! Yeah! Yoy! I'm not satisfied with that, though. Let's upgrade ourselves. I can't be bothered rationally deciding what to do. Just that there. So when you get a foul ball, it doesn't... If it touches just the tiniest edge of the water... There, if it touches even the tiniest pixel of the river's edge, or if the shadow of the ball touches the tiniest pixel of the river's edge, it counts as an out of bounds. So that's really nice. Come on. I wonder where he got that pink ribbon on his tail. Where did Eeyore get that pink ribbon? Take that, Eeyore. That won't help his self-esteem issues, but I don't think anything would help his self-esteem issues. Because 60 years worth of cartoons from Disney haven't helped his self-esteem issues. Yeah, that's good enough. I'm happy to proceed. Okay, level up, level power, good. Now, onto this elephant, Lumpy, which YouTube says is a heffalump, but I thought heffalumps never appeared in the series. I thought that you never saw any heffalumps. I thought that it was implied that they didn't actually exist. Heffalumps and woozles. I thought they were monsters that everybody was afraid of, but they didn't exist because absolutely nothing exists in the world of Winnie the Pooh except from all of the characters that everyone knows. There's nothing else. Although I'm not a Winnie the Pooh expert by any means, I've not studied the Winnie the Pooh canon in any sufficient detail to make such a proclamation as whatever I just said. Get over the hedge. I thought you had to get it over the hedge to win, but I've seen YouTubes that didn't quite pass the hedge and still won. Got the home runs. Yeah. Well, I guess there must be a heffalump, but have we seen a woozle? That's my question. Are there any woozles? I mean, there was a dinosaur that was the biggest monster of all they thought existed. There was a Skullosaurus dinosaur, but that thing didn't exist either, spoilers, in the movie that they made in the 90s that I saw. The Christopher Robin's Adventures, which a story that they mysteriously decided to just basically reuse again with practically no changes in another Winnie the Pooh movie that they made in more recent years. If any of you 6-year-olds watching this have seen that, then you might be surprised if you look into if you find the 1990s Winnie the Pooh movie. I think it was The Search for Christopher Robin. It's just the same story. It's just this exact same story. It's right down to Owl being the one to interpret Christopher's letter or whatever and misread one of the words and make that's everything. Spoilers, but as if you care about the plot of anything involving Winnie the Pooh. Maybe you do. Well, too bad. I'll put a spoiler warning on nothing because I won't do that. Yeah, I was looking up the TV Tropes page and it catalogued this suspicious similarity in plots to the two movies as generational... They had some stupid name for it, but basically it's a common storytelling thing where a cartoon for little children or a series for small children or any kind of group where the people reading it are going to stop caring in a few years, then the creators will happily just reuse all the plots and stuff because nobody will ever realise they've done it, because nobody that cares about the series will be reading it anymore. So, like with little children's stuff, a little children's show, say, that lasts for a long time, then if it's for 6-year-olds, then after 5 years, they might just make a new episode that is exactly the same as an old one, because none of the children watching will know. So that's probably what Disney did with that. And I mean, they were right. No little children would have known. Isn't that right, Pooh? Well, at least I beat him. At least I beat Piglet. That's what you get. Does it even record your high scores? I'm afraid to press the main menu button in case it forgets how much progress I'd made. I don't even know if this remembers how far you got if you leave the web page and come back. Ah! Wait a minute. You can just keep hitting it over and over again. Watch this. Watch this. Okay, it didn't work fine. Thought I discovered a cool trick there. I see Kangaroo is where it starts to get a little harder than normal. That curvy-wurvy ball is... Brother, is this what I'd be like if I played baseball? Would I just be... Every time the ball came at me, I'd start going like that? Well, it's probably... I guess this is an appropriate time to talk about sports in general, because I was afraid of the ball in most of these things. In football, in European football or soccer or whatever, which I had to play at school, despite hating the sport for passion, I was afraid of the ball. I was the one that was picked last to be in school on the team. Don't know why schools do that. They still do it to this day, it seems. Making the children pick one by one who they want on their team. Because of course there's going to be one poor little twerp that always gets picked last. And they feel like a fat waste of space, just like all other friends would be thinking of them as when they're doing that activity. I don't get why teachers do this. A humiliation, just a humiliation ritual. But, well, yeah, I used to run away from the ball. When I was the goalkeeper, I seem to remember being the goalkeeper most of the time for some reason. I don't know why they did that, because when someone came along with the ball, instead of trying to defend the goal or whatever, instead of trying to keep it out of the goal, I ran away from the thing. And I'm not even joking, I got scared and ran from it, or I just, when the person hit the ball with their foot, I just put my hands to my face and went into a defence position. Like a instinctive thing. So yeah, I was the worst football player ever, the worst soccer player ever, and I wonder, would I be the same in baseball then? If somebody threw a baseball at me, would I just cower in fear? I just realised that Winnie is moving backwards every time this happens. I'm not doing that, it's just, the position I've got the mouse in is just making him go back. Well, that was a little tough. Well, yeah, that was certainly the most challenging one yet. It's not finished yet, but I've won! Crumbs, Kanga and Roo. At least we've won. Okay. Great music too. Oh, it's making my throat crush itself. Although that might have been Twinkleberry's voice earlier, which also causes me to lose my voice. Am I the only one that always thought of Rabbit from Winnie the Pooh as a sort... Not maybe cynical's the wrong word, but he was the most the straight man of them all. I felt he was the most sort of I thought of Rabbit as he's sort of more level-headed than the rest of them. He's kind of... He just feels like he's surrounded by fools and doesn't want anything to do with them. Or else he takes advantage of them if he can. Alright. I've got to say that this famously devilishly hard game is not... It's not throwing me for a total loop so far. But I suppose it would probably throw a 2-year-old boy for a loop. Yeah, that lovely 20-second long tune that just never stops playing is... I can certainly see how that would contribute to the madness of anybody that plays this game and gets stuck listening to this over and over and over again. In real baseball, you've got 3 strikes and you're out. Man, that was not easy. 3 strikes and you're out in real baseball. Can Rabbit get slammed? Also, nice name, by the way, Rabbit. Hey, that was... Well, I was going to say that wasn't my fault because the screen froze, but I won anyway. A.A. Milne did a fantastic naming job on the characters in Winnie the Pooh, for one thing. Let's talk about that, why don't we? Rabbit is just a rabbit whose name is Rabbit. That's a really... That's Star Fox level naming there. And then we've got Piglet, who is a piglet. A child pig. I believe they call them piglets, don't they? Eeyore is a very strangely named donkey, so I'll give him a pass. Eeyore has certainly got an interesting name. I think all the characters were named after the Christopher Robin's actual pet, well, actual toy animals. The series of Winnie the Pooh books, if you don't know, were written by a person called A.A. Milne, who I think is a man, but I used to think it was a woman. And they were based on his son Christopher Robin in real life, who had a bunch of toy stuffed animals. And so A.A. Milne wrote these stories for his child about what fun they got up to in this fictional forest. Which, according to TV tropes, was not called the 100 Acre Wood. The 100 Acre Wood was part of the forest where Owl lived, but Disney changed things so that it's the 100 Acre Wood. Everything that you know about Winnie the Pooh is from Disney. Well, that's not true. The stories were in the book, but like the appearances of the characters are largely Disney's responsibility. Because I did read the original books back a long time ago, and I found that the illustrations are certainly very different. Winnie the Pooh does not have his red shirt, and he doesn't look much like himself. Obviously Disney are responsible for all the voices that you all know and love. Eeyore and Piglet and Rabbit, Kanga and Roo, again, just first class creativity. Who else? Tigger, who is, well, I mean, I think he's supposed to be a tiger, and he's shoved a G in there, which is more than Star Fox would do, so again, that's good work. I'll give him a credit for that. But then you've got the one that I've been waiting for. Oh yeah, Owl, of course. Owl. Just Owl. But then you get to the one that I've been building up to this whole time, which is, of course, the main man himself. Winnie the Pooh. Which is just a name that is just mystifying to me. I don't get it. It would be fine if he'd been called Winnie, or Pooh, or maybe Winnie the Bear, or Winnie Pooh the Bear. But no, he's Winnie the Pooh. As if being a Pooh is something that exists. What on earth is a Pooh? Is that what Christopher Robin himself named him, I wonder? Probably is, yeah, it will be. Anyway, now for the one that, well, after I've upgraded, after I've distributed Pooh's experience points, we're going on to the stage that is the most famously... Actually, we're not doing that because I am going to stop the recording again. Oh no! No! Please! Oh no! Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I've already lost 2 hits to Owl because of the mad mouse. Owl is just throwing that ball like a mad owl. And yeah, this is where it just... Oh my goodness, the internet's right, look at this. Holy... How are you supposed to deal with this? You gotta hit the sweet spot, but that ball is rocketing around way too fast to time it properly. Well, I guess maybe you've got to just try and figure out where the middle of that janking left and right sway is. Try and figure out where the middle of that, in between where it's swaying left and right, and hit it there. Although that doesn't seem to be helping me much either. Yeah, this is not easy. Anyway, back to 80 Milne and that. The names are weird. One thing that I did... one thing I've learned a long time ago, don't know how true this is exactly, but I gathered that the as much as well loved as Winnie the Pooh and friends are to this day, they're characters that pretty much ruined the creator hated. 80 Milne came to hate Winnie the Pooh, I think, because he wanted to be a serious writer or something, but of course he got typecast as the man that wrote the little cute children's story and nobody could ever take him seriously. And then Christopher Robin himself, his own son, who he lovingly wrote these stories for, grew up and naturally, well, probably hit his teenage years, and as you might have guessed, became to get pretty blooming fed up as well of being forever associated with Winnie the Pooh. I can't really blame him. I feel kind of bad for myself for that. Imagine like everywhere you go, and hi, welcome to this interview for this responsible corporate position, Christopher Robin. Welcome to the Marines, Christopher Robin. And then, of course, there's the Winnie the Pooh Too Smart for Strangers video, where Winnie the Pooh and his friends tell children not to, to be careful around strangers, in keeping with the old 1980s and 90s thing for doing that, where that was a lesson they encouraged children to learn, even though they discovered later. My generation was taught that stuff, but then they found out that actually most of the time it's people you know, that you or your family know. So, I mean, at least they tried, but they tragically failed. Well, that's probably not true. Strangers, it probably does happen with strangers as well, but it's not so much strangers as it is other people. It's more often than not, again, some kind of person, some sort of acquaintance of the family, or possibly even part of the family. Too smart for strangers. I think I've already exhausted all of my Winnie the Pooh subject matter, so that's great, because we're only now getting to the stuff that takes people an eternity to get past. This is just the bee's knees, alright. In real baseball, not that I'm an expert on sports and stuff, but in real baseball you've got people with gloves. When the batter hits the ball, well, I don't think they call them the batter, do they? That's a cricket thing. The baseballer, whatever on earth that person's called, the person with the baseball bat, when they hit the ball, then it's, assuming it doesn't go out of bounds, then there's a bunch of people in the opposite team that are standing randomly around the big grassy field, and they've got to try and run and catch the ball. And I think that, well, the idea is that they catch it and then, well, they get the ball and then throw it around to their teammates. I don't know if they're allowed to run with the ball themselves, but they throw the ball at their teammates and then try to throw it to one of the teammates on one of the bases, because the batter is trying to run. If the batter hits the ball, then they're trying to run between all of the bases to get a home run. They've got to run from where they start all around all of the special spots. And the opposing team wants to get that ball to one of their own people, because there's one of their own people on each of the bases. So they've got to get it to one of them, but they've got to get it to one that is at a base that the batter has not reached yet. Which, that's fair enough, but if I understand correctly, then when the batter hits the ball, then if one of the people that are trying to catch it manages to catch the ball before it even hits the ground, then that instantly counts. That's an instant disqualification, or whatever you want to call it. The batter loses, and they've got to get switched out, which, no offence, America, but that strikes me as a very unfair rule. I mean, you can hit the thing really well, and if the opposite team just so happens to manage to run up to it and grab it before it hits the ground, then you lose. It doesn't matter how good you do. That's it. There's like, how can you? You can't control that. That's not something the baseball bat person is at fault for. If the person just is able to catch it, then they can catch it. There's nothing, like, I feel like that's really unfair. I've always felt that's unfair. What skill? That's how I've always felt about that. That's just, it's like you're cheating the batter out of the thing. They could have hit it really nicely, but you just got lucky and caught it before it hit the ground, so they just lose. Oh, that was interesting. I thought I was standing way too far to the left that time, but we'd managed it. I don't think that's what Winnie the Pooh sounds like. Maybe that was A.A. Milne's original vision of his voice. Maybe he felt that's what Pooh should sound like. Die! Die! Oh, phew. What a close shave. Oh, no. Ah! Oh, I've got a bad feeling. We're just 2 hits away. We just got to get 2 more. Oh, that's a clean hit. But if somebody had been there to catch it in real baseball, then the baseball batter just would be the loser. Oh, I was afraid that would be out of bounds. Well, we did it. Owl's toast. But good grief if that was not surprisingly hard. I certainly don't feel like I have much control over how well this ball goes. I feel like it's just random. The thing is just zigzagging left and right. If it just so happens to zag a bit too much to the left when it hits the bat, then it'll go out of bounds. We barely made that. So I think it's, I don't know. Oh, whatever. Meant to upgrade. Right, now this is where it gets, yeah, the ball's invisible with Tigger. Yeah, look at this. It doesn't seem so bad when you're watching it on the internet. But yeah, this is abominable. You can't see the ball. And he throws it at different speeds as well, I've noticed, and then... Oh dear, but it's between power and control, I think, that you've got to put the points... I don't know what speed even exists for. There's not really anything you need to move fast for. You don't need to go fast in this game. I think you may be better off getting as far to the front as possible with Tigger. so that there's less time you have to spend with the ball being invisible. I'm saying that now. I think that might be the trick with Tigger. No, it's out of bounds. I've got a feel for it already when it's out of bounds, and I really have run out of meaningful stuff to discuss. I think I'm going to be spending the rest of this just talking about how much they're not hitting the ball. That's out of bounds as well. Ugh. I think I'm going to definitely complete this now, by the way. I think I'm not going to give up on this. Come Thunder Basement Radiators or high water. Tigger the wasted space tiger thing is going down. Him and his Stay Fresh cheese bags have seen the Star Wars. The Tig still throwing Pooh Bear for his money. He's literally throwing him a curveball. How is it a foul if it still hits the grass in the end? The shadow clips over the water, but the ball still gets to the green. But the whole time I've been playing this game, I've had that Disney cake advertisement at the top, constantly showing the same, constantly repeating the same 2-second long clip of somebody slicing a slice of Mickey Mouse cake away with a blood red icing on top of it. Maybe don't want to think too hard about that. What do we want? I think contact is where the money is with Tigger. We want as much contact as possible, because the sweet spot, although that doesn't help too much if I can't hit the ball at all, which is, as well, not there, but that is itself a problem. I thought maybe it wouldn't be a foul. I know when it's going to be a foul. Wait a minute. That wasn't at the centre of the bat. That one did not hit the sweet spot. Ugh. Okay, maybe that's what the speed's for. Alright, fine. So maybe we don't want to be right up bang at the centre. Maybe we don't want to be right up at the front. I thought that was a good strategy for hitting the invisible ball that turns invisible. But no. Let's try being in the middle of the place. Thing is, I feel confident about whatever thing I'm doing when I hit a couple of balls of it, but then I miss one and suddenly all of my confidence shatters completely. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Oh! That was a fast one. Fast. It's coming down a little faster than I'm thinking it will. So I think I need to hit it a little bit earlier than I think I need to hit it. I think I need to forget to remember to think that I've already remembered that I need to think to forget to think to hit the ball to do nothing, and Winnie the Honeypots beat Tigger. Well, that was a fast one. That one, I think the ball might be speeding up just like after it turns invisible. I think is the ball accelerating? I think it might be accelerating. And so like while it's invisible it's still getting faster, but you wouldn't know because it's invisible. You know what I'm learning about this one is that it's not so much the stats of the power, control and speed stats aren't terribly helpful with this. The real threat with this round is just flat out not even hitting the ball at all. I don't think the programmers of this, the Japanese programmers, if you didn't know, this game was originally a Japanese exclusive. For some reason Disney didn't let this out on the American website. Maybe they thought it was too hard for the children. But you know what, the video game industry was never able to decide what it thought about that. Okay, Tigger. You're not going down realistically, but I'm gonna play. There we are, I'm back in the swing of things. I'll be here all week, folks. Just more than can be said for Winnie, who is most likely going to have a trauma after this. Maybe the cause of Eeyore's famous downtroddenness is that he played this. downtroddenness. Yeah. He's played so much baseball with his far superior wizard friends that are able to turn baseballs invisible and zigzag them through the air while they're in the air, that he just lost all self-confidence. I think just before I was distracted by real life earlier, I think I was talking about the difference between Japanese and American expectations of difficulty in video games. Well, Japanese and the world. Because back in the old days, there was stuff like the Lost Levels, Super Mario Bros. 2, the real Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, which was just like the original Super Mario Bros. But much harder. They famously did not release that in the West because they thought it would just be too tough. And instead, they took an existing game where you pick up vegetables and throw them at things and released that instead, or something like that. I've heard them say that actually always was meant to be the Super Mario Bros. 2 right from the start, and this other game was actually the one that Doki Doki Panic was actually based on Super Mario Bros. 2. I don't know. Anyway. They famously didn't want to release that because it was too hard, but then there's I can't think of any specifically right now. Well, I can think of, there was games where they took a game that was fairly easy and deliberately made it harder for the West. There's times where they've taken the difficulty levels and bumped them up, so that like the normal mode of Japan is the easy mode of America, or the West, and things like that. Things to that effect. So, there's certainly things you can do. I mean, there's different companies seem to have different beliefs about what they should be doing with that sort of stuff. And it's not consistent at all. It never was. This led to some notorious things, like there was an old game called Exile Wicked Phenomenon on the TurboGrafx X CD, where Working Designs, who are a well-known group, much beloved of people of a certain age and inclination to Japanese role-playing games of the 90s, liked them, but they made some pretty boneheaded decisions. And one of them was that they decided with that game that it was too easy, so they'd make it harder. And so what they did was they took all of the enemies in the game, the stats, the status parameters, attack and defense and so on, and then they decided to write down what they thought those parameters should be instead. And they sent this list to the original programmers in Japan and said, hey, please change them to these values and then send the game to us again. And so they did that. And when they got back, it turned out they'd made them like 10 times more powerful than they were before. And so there gets to a point in the game where you literally die in, I think, one hit from everything, unless you level up to the absolute maximum. And even then, you've... Oh wait, what did I do that for? There. And even then, the rest of the game is a complete nightmare. So good job with that, Working Designs. That's not the only example of that sort of thing either. I've heard of that happening with other games as well. But I can't think of any immediate examples. I think that extra control might be helping. Lister for Globin.
Like, and you're out. Get out on your bike, Pooh. On your bike, you waste of space, bear.
I doubt that's what Tigger sounds like. What do I mean I doubt that's what he sounds like? I've seen the cartoon, I know that's not what he sounds like. Dear me, the contact is really ramping up now. It would be nice if there was a stat that told you what this contact actually means. And I can't go back and read the help without risking the possibility that if I click that main menu and read the help and come back, there's going to be nothing but Eeyore again. And I'm going to be level 1 and everything, so I'm not going to risk that. Alright, Tigger. We've come a long way. We've batted a bunch of balls, and the contact is 1 level higher now. And I think that we've got what it takes. Winnie the Pooh has got what it takes to smash that white baseball into the field. And the baseball doesn't have those red lines that baseballs have on them for some reason. There's these red line things that go across them that I don't know what they're there for. Much like the black lines that go around basketballs, I don't know if they have any purpose whatsoever, or if it's just for decoration. I don't know why sports always have a specific type of ball. Well, not type of ball, but the ball always looks the same. Like a soccer ball is these black and white hexagons. I think they're hexagons. I don't think I've ever paid enough attention to want to check how many sides they've got. Or maybe they're octagons. Perhaps Jack Black will correct me about this. I don't know why basketballs are always orange. They've always got those black things. I don't know why footballs are always white and black. I mean, they could be made of the same material and have the same shapes on them, but be different colours. They could be pink and yellow instead of black and white. That'd be interesting. Why don't we see some of that? I think I have seen yellow. Oh, is that going to be not far enough? No, it is. I think I have seen yellow and black footballs, but only for like play. You can buy them in the shops, but you'll never see real soccer players using those. And it's the same with baseballs. They're always white with red lines. They're never white with green lines or red with magenta lines. It's just so boring. This world is such a boring place to me, folks. Also, I'm a bit disturbed at how well we're doing all of a sudden here. What's going on? Am I actually a secret master of Winnie the Pooh Home Run Derby? Or did that last level of contact just make all the difference? Because it's sure looking like it made a difference. And I don't believe in myself enough to think that I've actually gotten more skillful at the game. But maybe I'm just not giving myself enough credit. Maybe my subconscious mind really has mastered Tigger's invisible ball wizardry. Very well animated, this game. I love Pooh when he swings the bat. It's so smooth and nice. Oh. This thing was made in 2008, according to Wikipedia, but it didn't become notorious until 2013 or thereabouts. So this game existed for 5 years, just quietly lying on the Japanese version of the Disney website. Just quietly just being there, getting played by 4-year-old Japanese children who probably quit after Piglet. Probably never even saw Tigger, let alone Owl. Or Rabbit. And they got the they got 5 years this game existed before people started to realise, oh brother, watch this. I'm gonna miss every single one of these now that I've only got 3 to go. No, getting there. Yep, I just got to hit one more, and Tigger is toast! He's going to learn the real meaning of the problem.
There's too many baseballs. Too many toasters is not the problem.
Also, I did it. I got the...
Foul ball.
Foul ball. No, foul ball. I might as well keep hitting them, though, because I've got a feeling that I'm going to be maximum level of everything by the time I've beaten Christopher Robin, if indeed that ever happens, from what the legends are telling me. I don't know what Christopher Robin's throws look like, but I doubt they're going to be terribly pleasant. Winnie the Pooh, Home Run Derby!
Game over.
Okay.
Let's be having some of that experience then.
Was that special? What did that say? Oh, it's not stage 8, it's stage special. Christopher Robin certainly is a special fellow.
All systems full power.
I think, and some speed too. Let's hold off on speed, because let's hold off on power, sorry. We might not need power to slam Christopher Robin. Okay, this is it, folks. The time has come. I've only been playing this famously impossible game for, I think, an hour, and we're already at the secret, well, Yeah, the special stage. It's not really a secret. It's not. I don't know what's so special about this when every one of these stages was invisible besides Eeyore's until you beat the one before it. So, like, it's not like, oh wow, there's a 8th stage. It's not like that's a massive mystery, and we already got the same thing for all of them, but whatever. Christopher Robin. Time has come. Let's see just how fiendish this game really is. The final challenge. And, well, he's not impressed me with the first bat, but let's just wait and see. Oh my goodness. He's a combination of all of them, isn't he? Yes, he bloomin' well is. He's everything. He's what TV tropes would call the final exam boss. And oh my. Oh, brother. Final exam is certainly right. He's the final exam from Thunder Basement Radiators. Yeah, the worst part of this game easily is that I'm not aware of any... there doesn't appear to be any way to cancel out of the level if you're going to lose. Winnie the Pooh is just forced to sit here and take 30 extra balls if he's already not able to win anymore. Although well, it's not really something to complain about because you need to get experience anyway. Here I was thinking that was the best one yet, but no, it was actually bad. Christopher Robin. Oh dear, what's happened to me? What's going on here? I've lost it. Like Michael Jordan when he quit basketball and went and played baseball instead, which failed spectacularly, going by the Space Jam website. They didn't say it failed spectacularly, but I think that the implication is there. They call them home runs, but you never see Winnie the Pooh running around the bases. They just didn't want to animate that. It's just assumed that, despite the fact that there's nobody around the field to catch the ball and put Winnie out, he could take all the time in the world to get his home run. There's no players that... The pitcher isn't allowed to catch the ball. But the only thing it could be, if he hits it correctly but he didn't have enough time to get the home run, then Christopher Robin himself must be using his Jedi Force powers or something to just freeze Winnie in place and psychically smack him back to his batting position where he belongs. Or maybe the rugby tackling him to the ground and beating him senseless. Maybe that's why they put it off screen. They thought the little children just wouldn't be able to handle the stuff that they do to Pooh if he fails to get a home run. I don't know. You can add all this to the creepypasta wiki for this game, or whatever it's got. I'm sure there'll be something like that. Everybody thinks that the characters in this are demons. I'm sure that there's people who have suggested stuff like that Winnie himself has been trapped by these monsters, forced to do this for all eternity, smack baseballs at them. Well, there's worse fates. Like pretty much anything that Twinkleberry could get you to do. But of course Twinkleberry is Christopher Robin, as we discussed before. So, yeah, there she is up there. Ugh, there. I was saying earlier though, his name is always Christopher Robin. It calls to mind another thing, speaking of, well, it's appropriate that I'm talking about Winnie the Pooh with that, because A.A. Milne himself is an example of something I've never understood. Writers seem to love to write their first name, or often it's just their middle name as an initial. A.A. Milne, J.R.R. Tolkien, J.K. Rowling. They're really fond of that. Nobody else does this, it's just book writers. Who was the other one? H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah, this is an old tradition, and I don't know why it happens. It's only writers that just put the first letter of their first name, and again, it's sometimes their middle name. George B. Baker. Why is it so important? If you're going to tell us what your first name is, and if you're going to take the trouble to even address your middle name at all with an initial, then why don't you just write out the full name? You might as well at that point. If you're going to put the B in George B. Baker in, you may as well have just written it out in full, or just called yourself George Baker. What was the point of that? Never understood that. Just pretentious. It's like how writers always get... it's like how famous writers always get their name written in the same font and the same way in their books. I'm sure that... I don't know what J.K. Rowling's is, but I'm sure she'll have one. They've always got a specific way it's written. It's always written that way. And the book covers will be drawn by some professional artist. I've said this before, if and when the Mower Show takes off, I am not going to let anybody draw the front cover of the book but me. That's not happening. I don't care if it outsells Harry Potter. The industry is not going to force me to... The industry is not going to get some stock Hollywood... Some stock book equivalent of Hollywood artist to draw a bland, generic fantasy cover. That is not happening. King Benetrim is going to have his weird eyes with the straight line along the bottom. Masculine is going to be pixelated as anything. And yeah, Dan Terry's is going to look absolutely nothing like a horse. Or a zebra as he is in the novels. He won't look anything like a zebra either. That's how it's going to be. I don't care if I get put in prison for it, that's what's happening. There's no two ways around that. I'm not letting anything else happen. There's no room for debate here. Okay, the recording is still fine. Oh yeah, we already upgraded. I've got to beat this today in case the browser history dies, in case it loses my progress. Like an old NES game that just forgets everything you did when you press the power off button. Including some of these old games that have a high score at the end of it, a high score list, but it forgets them when you switch off the game. So what is even the point? Like Yoshi's Safari did that. It happened quite a lot in a lot of these old Nintendo games. It would save your high score and show it to you at the title screen, but it would lose them all when you switched it off. So talk about pointless. Talk about a completely useless thing. I don't know why they even bothered. Star Wars stickers. How did you see? It went backwards. And they even drew a hill backwards, so they expected that to happen. There's a hill back there that you can only see if Pooh somehow manages to hit the ball behind himself. Is Christopher Robin throwing these things so fast at him that even when Pooh hits the ball with the bat, the ball's momentum is still going backwards? That's some throwing arm that you've got there, Christopher. The plot of Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure, the movie I was talking about earlier from the 90s, where they repeated the plot in a modern, recent movie, never made much sense to me because the theme... I've already put a spoiler warning in for this, I said earlier, if I even have done that. So I'm just gonna wholesale reveal the whole plot. Christopher Robin says to Winnie that he's gonna have to go away or they're not gonna be together anymore or something. And Winnie the Pooh wonders the next day where Christopher's gone. And Christopher Robin left a note which none of them can read, so Owl reads it, and he misreads it and thinks that he's gone to Skull, which they all think is a horrible skull that he's chosen to go to, I guess, and he's trapped there, and so they've all got to go and get him back. But he has in fact not gone to Skull, he's gone to school. And every So Winnie the Pooh and his friends go off on an epic adventure to save him, and they go through all these scary places and death-defying situations they end up in, where like they're hanging off of ledges with bottomless pits below them and stuff, and they physically go through all of these things. But then later in the movie, by the end of the movie, Christopher Robin appears and reveals he's just gone to school, and the place wasn't a giant skull; it was just a school building, which is just about that is just about as horrifying as a giant creepy skull to most children, I'm sure. But it certainly was to me, so I can believe that. But then they march back home happily, and it reveals that all of the scary stuff they saw was actually just happy, flowery fields, and there was nothing scary at all. But you don't just imagine that you're dangling for your life over a giant pit. There's one scene where Pooh does fall down the pit, and he's sliding down these slides and crying and falling. That you don't just imagine that's happening. So what's the deal? Did the school actually have these death trap chutes and pits and platforms? And the crystals as well. There was a big cave full of crystals. Was that not real? Was that actually the school cook's cooking? There's a lot of questions that need answered about the adventures, the search for Christopher Robin. Well, maybe that's why they made that new movie that's just the same, to answer those questions, maybe. Because in that movie, I've read that the premise that I just said is pretty much identical right up until the point when Owl reads the note. Because instead of reading that Christopher Robin went to Skull, he reads that he says that he'll be, was it something about Baxon? He's going to be Baxon, and Owl thinks that there's an evil monster called the Baxon that is taking him. But it actually meant he's going to be back soon. Which I think that it's got less good than the Skull one, really. Because I don't know what the sentence was where he said he'd be Baxon. Maybe he thought he'd turn into Baxon, like Seth turned into Riverson in Illusion of Time/Gaia. I don't know. What do you think, Winnie? When he's speechless on this, those fastballs aren't helping matters. I'm being distracted by the beast's love heart eyes and that flower or whatever it is that he's holding there. And the advert at the top. It's the Beauty and the Beast characters. Wait, is that supposed to be, is that, what's his face? What's his name? Gaston on the left? Looks nothing like him. I recognise the candlestick on the right. I didn't know there was a clock. One of the characters is a clock. And what a pathetic movie, I'm just realising that half the characters are kitchen utensils. Half the characters are just household objects. They were really reaching for all these Disney movies that remade classic fairy tales tended to add characters, but they tended to add characters to stories that didn't have many characters in the first place, but they were really reaching with the candle and the kettle and that clock there. They really didn't have much to go with at all. It took me a long time to realise that almost every single Disney film is just an adaptation of a fairy tale. I don't know why it took me so long to realise that, but it did. They're almost all just fairy tales. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Either fairy tales or folklore, like Robin Hood. Fairy tales are folkloric figures that might be considered fairy tales. Well, I don't know if that was the logic they were going with the Robin Hood movie. The Princess and the Frog, of course, is an adaptation of the old story about woman that kisses a frog that was a prince. Well, I assume it was. I don't actually know. I don't know how it could have been, considering that it's about a family of black suburban American caterers. I don't know how they adapted a medieval prince transforming out of a frog into that. But they must have done. I've not seen it. Frozen is just the... Frozen, which is so popular, is the Ice Queen. Another fairy tale. I bet that's not too well known. I don't know how common knowledge that is, that one's that one is a fairy tale like the rest of them. And I just noticed how the points to level up, they're so lazy. When you get to the maximum level, it doesn't even... It still says pit there. It doesn't say that you've won, great, congrats or anything, no. Maybe they just didn't expect anybody to play long enough to get that. I think it's fairly likely that this game just wasn't play tested. They just didn't care. They didn't realise how much of a monster they'd made. Just some Japanese programmers, some Japanese minimum wage 20-year-olds that were just chained to Disney's desk and made to update these crummy Flash games that probably got 2 children playing them per 5 months. Just got ordered by Disney to make these games or they get fired. And so they just... well, I've got no idea if the stuff I'm saying is true. But it's fun to think. And they got told by Disney to make this, so they just banged together a basic baseball game. Just checked, yeah, you can definitely hit the ball. It'll definitely go over that hedge. Yeah, there's an upgrade system. It works. Good, release that, and that's it. And that's all the thought they ever put into it. I've got no reason to say these things. It's probably not true at all. But you got to think, you got to wonder, don't you? You got to wonder how stuff like this happens. How did this tiny children's game get so hard? How did that manage to happen? Oh, felt a bit weird there. It's called, the website's called Disney LOL. They must know what they're talking. It's always weird when you see stuff like that in real things, you know? That's how I always felt as a child. It was always weird when you saw a thing like LOL, a real person using it, or, I don't know, a real thing. I don't know what I mean by that, but I think you know what I mean. Like if you're a real traditional old thing that just is normal, using words like lol, or acknowledging the existence of Ouija, or something like that. Your high school maths teacher coming in and saying, I mean, I am the high school maths teacher now, I think, because I can't think of anything that coming in and saying, your high school maths teacher comes in and says, well, slip me up sideways, lobblies, because you're gonna the Flintstones granddad. There we go. There we are, that's it. Flintstones granddad! If you went to see your grandmother for Christmas, well, if your grandmother came to your house or whatever you do, and you're sitting at the table eating your disgusting Victorian food, and suddenly Granny says oh, brother, this is the worst yet. Well, oh, I thought that was going to be a home run. But no, it bounced off the air above the fence. Did you see that? That was definitely did not touch the fence. Well, that bought me a bit of time to think about what grandmother said, but I still can't think of anything hip and trendy and stuff. Just completely at a loss here. Well, it would be like if Granny came at the house and started twerking. Well, even that's ancient by the kids' standards. That's at least 3 years old. Oh, I just realised we haven't lost yet. We've still got a chance. The twerking's not good. That's not good enough for my liking. Let's see. Out of bounds. I'm calling it before it happens. Lol. Raffle. Nobody says raffle. They stopped using raffle 10 years ago. Raffle. Woot. What other ones? Raffle, woot. They don't say pone anymore either. But yeah, raffle and woot are really old. Nobody says them now. Lamau. We've still got Witif and Omga. They've stuck around. And LOL itself, of course. LOL's still with us. I don't think that's going anywhere. I don't think that's going anywhere at this point. This is one of the ones that's been salvaged. Like cool. The word cool. For some reason the word cool just keeps transcending all of these generations. It gets... Cool has been with us through all of the gnarlies and bodaciouses and cowabungas and groovies and wizards and all these other words that have come and gone, while cool has for some reason just stuck around. I don't know what it is with cool. Anybody able to explain why the word cool never dies? It just doesn't for some reason. I feel as though it should be just the same as groovy and Topper and Beano. I feel it should have just faded away with them, but it didn't. It stuck. And it sticks. Much like I'm having a hard time sticking these balls to this bat. I saw somebody saying that if you get the ball far enough, you'll see Gopher. Who I didn't know existed. There's a character called Gopher. Although Disney made him up for the show. I'm guessing he's the same beaver with a lisp as the one from Lady and the Tramp, I think. The weave... Well, I can't whistle, so I can't do it, but the beaver that whistles all the time. I've never been able to whistle. Never been able to whistle. I've not even tried to do it for a long time. I don't know if I can or not. I don't know whether or not I can whistle. If I try... I don't know how to do it. What happens if I go up to the front? Well... It might get me some results. It might not. Pooh. Oh! Winnie the Pooh! It's me, your old friend, Christopher Robin.
How you doing, Winnie the Pooh? Having a nice time playing baseball with me? Having fun, Winnie the Pooh? Is it good? What's that, Winnie the Pooh? You want to go home? Your legs can't take it anymore, Winnie the Pooh? You're not enjoying the game anymore, Winnie the Pooh? But it's me, Christopher Robin. How can you want to leave me alone? I thought you wanted to be together forever and ever with me. Forever and ever 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 and ever.
Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, fumbly bumbly dumbly bliddle Blair. He's a round yellow bear and a red shirt on his torso. He's always honey and get your Sanders piglet out of my chest. The 100-acre place where they go, where Christopher Robin tortures Pooh mercilessly with baseball, and then when they come home, he sacrifices them as cupcakes. Yeah. Holy smokes. There we go. You've got I should have recorded that because you've got no idea the tension I was feeling getting close to the 40 there. Oh my goodness. The Christopher Robin, the harbinger of winter himself, has at last gone down to the mouse click of Mr. X. It only took 5 days actually. I think it was Monday that I started playing this, and then when I got to Christopher Robin I realised, yeah, I'd stuff this, and I played it a little bit every day, maybe an hour every day, and now finally Christopher Robin has met his match. The death of Christopher Robin. I should probably record myself playing a complete round against them, but you know what, I think actually no. But anyway, okay, so that's over. So then, in conclusion, how bad was this game? Was it really that hard? I don't think it was really that bad when you got used to it, if you got enough practice and experience. I found Christopher Robin gradually got a bit easier to play. Well, I found I reached some point where my instincts took over. I didn't feel like I was getting any more skilled at it, but my instincts started to get better apparently, because I was able to get more consistentness with Christopher Robin. I just found myself getting better and better scores. And then eventually I knocked his socks off. But it certainly is, I'll say one thing for this game, it's very frustrating. It's quite a frustrating thing when you hit those foul balls and you don't know why. When you hit those foul balls and you don't know why. Or when you just miss completely. Or when you hit it and it looks like it's about to make it, but no, it was just not quite far enough. It was slightly too short for a home run. The Christopher Robin certainly puts the incredible anger in people, I imagine. But aye. Fortunately, I'm a very balanced fellow, it seems, so he didn't bother me. But yeah, this game is notorious. This game frustrates adults, and I can't imagine what it does to little preschool children. I cannot imagine a little 3-year-old trying to beat Christopher Robin. That'd be fun to watch. Anyway, now then, Christopher Robin is slammed, so there's a video on YouTube of the Japanese version of somebody slamming Christopher Robin, and they stopped the video on this screen right here, so I'm wondering what happens when I click this button. I know exactly what's going to happen. Now it's just going to be the normal level menu. Yeah, absolutely nothing has changed. So that was a completely meaningless exercise. There's nothing that happens. This is absolutely nothing. 2.5 million bonus points. So yeah, there's no ultra super secret. There's not a Skullosaurus level. There's not a Baxon level. Christopher Robin is the incarnation of all monsters. Look at the colours in the backgrounds of these pictures. Green for Eeyore, purple for Lumpy, green again for Piglet, well, slightly lighter shade of green for Piglet, and then a slightly lighter shade of purple again for Boo, blue for Rabbit, lighter blue for Owl, even lighter blue for Tigger, and then whatever the name of that is, there'll be a name for that colour, but I don't know what it is. It'll be in the first Pokemon. Teal, is it? Oh, it's greeny blue, whatever. Christopher Robin's dead, and I don't get any kind of reward for it whatsoever, so what a pointless game. Unless there's something on the main menu. There's not. Maybe in the how to play section. I'm a secret madman. Oh my goodness, you don't, the burden that's been lifted from my shoulders, I must say. It's really something. I really ought to stop this recording before it, like, dies. Watching that I won't have recorded. Watching it'll turn out that recording didn't work. That's going to be annoying if that's the case. Well, my hope of recording myself start to finish, beating this entire game without pauses didn't happen, but that was not going to happen. That music as well. That is a madness mantra, as TV tropes would say. That is the eyes of madness. That's the tongue of madness. That is the gospel choir of a mad gospel choir. A mellifluous cacophony of most outrageous not niceness that you don't want. You don't want to be listening to when you're playing Christopher Robin over and over again. It's a nice, happy, pleasant, it's a nice, happy, innocent tune that's playing to mask the intense war that's going on between the player and Christopher Robin, or whoever the player is stuck against. Like it quickly settles into a battle, a full-fledged battle. There was somebody on YouTube playing this game that casually they were playing it, talking over it, and they mentioned offhand they were fighting Christopher Robin, I think, which is the most beautiful. they didn't like, and they meant it completely straight-faced, without a hint of irony as well as the thing. I don't think even they realised what they were saying. But yeah, it is a fight, and it's a fight that Mr. X wins. If anybody out there wants some advice for some reason to play Home Run Derby, if you want to play this old meme game yourselves now for some reason in 2018 or whatever year this goes up, then I can give you my War Battle Masterclass advice. Well, I can't. Well, I don't really have terribly much advice, I'm afraid, because all of the stuff I learned was just my instincts getting better. I don't know what I was doing. I didn't feel like I'd improved, but well, I was trying to position myself I was trying to position Pooh. Well, first of all, I always had him at the very back, as far back as possible. As far away from Sipulchar himself as possible. And then I had him positioned so that the green bit of his bat was lined up with Christopher Robin himself, around about roughly in the middle of Christopher Robin. Well, the green bit of his bat was roughly aligned with Christopher Robin's body, or maybe a little bit to the left, in between Christopher Robin's hand holding the ball and his body. I don't know if that mattered, but... And then when the ball came, if it looked... I immediately tried to see if it was going to head to the left or to the right, and adjust Pooh a little bit accordingly. But that, I don't think that really mattered much, honestly. I didn't bother too much about that. Let's see, the zigzag, the ones that rocket left and right at a zigzag, I never learned a way to deal with them. Sometimes they hit beautifully. Most of the time they just hit a short distance. And I could not just figure out a way to make that better. I think it's just luck. It's really just luck, I think, with that. unless anybody knows a better way, I was never able to form a strategy for those, so I just had to hope he didn't do too many of them. You might have noticed in that video that the last hit I needed to get a 40, when he threw it, it was a zigzag. I was terrified, but look, thank goodness that was one of the ones that got through. Now, another thing I did was eventually after I got good enough at it, I stopped I started working with statistics, because you got to get 40 out of 50 balls to beat Christopher, and that is 80% of the balls, or 4 out of 5. So for every 5 balls he threw, I was trying to get 4. If the game started and I hit 1 ball, and then I missed another one, and then I missed another one after that, then I usually just refresh the browser immediately, and it doesn't kill the game's save file, you just get to do it again. So basically, for every 5 balls he threw, I was determined to have 4 hit back, otherwise I just gave up, because I couldn't be bothered getting to 32 balls hit and then just it all goes pear-shaped. So that was where my standards went eventually. And well, that's what got me through this madhouse. Good grief. Harbinger of Winter. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a YouTube video where somebody wrote a really eloquent little poem about beating Christopher Robin in this.
Silly old bear. If the harbinger of spring is the sound of a bat on a ball, then I have become the harbinger of winter. A barren and desolate spot, your bat will never hear. As my ball strikes to padded blow, with the disgruntled thud of 30,000 fans stretching out of the arena, watching as you throw down your bat in disgust, and more what can never be. Yes. Do you want me to ever defeat you, Pooh Bear? Not as long as you or I will live. They will never tell stories of your greatness, or herald you as the second coming of pinch hitters. There are 108 stitches in every ball.
Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh is the one for you. My name is Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, my name's Winnie, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Pooh is here for you. My name is Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh is here for you. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh is the one for you. My name is Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh is here for you. My name's Winnie, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh is the one for you. My name is Winnie the Pooh. It's all over. And there's nothing to show for it. There's no reward or anything. Should get $1 million for this. Okay, it's all over. Winnie the Pooh's Home Run Derby. Good night and, Captain Speed.